our downtown neighbors, President and CEO of the Jackson County Chamber of Commerce and Experience Jackson, Ryan Tarrant. Hey Ryan, welcome back.
Thanks, great to be back, Bart.
Yeah, good to see you after a very busy month of all kinds of events, awards, and activities.
Coming up for air now. It was a great month. January, February had two of our sort of big premier events in the MLK Diversity Breakfast and the Night of Distinction. So, those were my first foray into those two events, and both went great.
Yeah,
they were fantastic.
I would say job well done. Of course, you have a great team that helped you out with it, but they were well received, and I enjoyed myself at both events. So thank you.
Good, you're welcome. Yeah, the team's been great. They did all the work on that. I can't take any credit.
Yeah, you do have a great team. So I know one of the first things that you wanted to do was see what kind of plan the chamber has, and I think that you took that as an opportunity to sit down with the board and staff and really revise and refine a plan going forward.
Yeah, late last year we went through with the board and the staff comprehensive strategic planning session, and really what came out of that and what the board has done is approved a plan that sort of has three pillars really, and I like to say that it begins and ends with our members. We're going to redefine what the value proposition is for our members, what that looks like going forward. We've always done phenomenal events, provided networking opportunities, but how can we double down on those things and offer premium content, offer low cost or no cost networking opportunities for members to build relationships. We've gone out and surveyed our members, had a significant number of members who have responded to that to find out what it is that they want and what they're looking for. In a lot of cases it is that networking opportunities, relationship building, those types of things, but there were some other things that we saw too, and that gets into that second sort of pillar, which is working on some more strategic initiatives that involve not just our members, but the community as a whole, and how can we impact the community, as the voice of business and convening different organizations, different folks into community initiatives that drive things forward, kind of continue this momentum that, I keep hearing about since I've been here. And then that third leg is obviously chambers are always known for business advocacy. You look at the Michigan Chamber in the state of Michigan, and they're pretty consistently ranked #1 as far as membership organizations and associations in Lansing as a lobbying organization. And for us here in Jackson, I think we can have an impact on what that business climate looks like here in the community, but then also, kind of expanding out and working with our state legislative delegation, and even, providing support and opposition for different policies in Washington.
It's interesting to see an agenda laid out, because I bet a lot of people think Chamber of Commerce in any community, they're doing the same thing, cookie cutter from place to place, but that's not the case.
No, the old saying is if you've met one chamber, you've met one chamber. Every community is different and unique in its own way, and every community has different needs. When we look here at the types of initiatives that we want to work on here, you look at things like, how do you create a safe and vibrant community, and what does that look like? And, specifically you look at a couple of things. We've got the upcoming jail millage in August that's going to be on the ballot that's going to be important. I've heard talk about homelessness and panhandling, and so, how do we engage in that issue? Broadband is a concern. You still have underserved populations here in the city of Jackson, but then you even have unserved populations outside the city, and the state's got $1.5 billion coming from the federal government to work on broadband issues. So, a couple of weeks ago I was on with the LEO director, and she thought that that $1.5 billion is going to cover the vast majority of those people who are under or unserved in the state of Michigan. So, making sure that we're capturing our fair share of dollars here in Jackson and serving as many of those people as we can.
Yeah, a lot of people in Jackson County are not able to use the internet at all. I was talking to someone in Waterloo Township yesterday, dial-up. That's the only thing they have.
Yep, they're probably not doing a lot of Zoom meetings. The other pieces of it, working on education, the teacher shortage, how do we leverage 100 Homes and other programs here that we have, with our cost of living to try and drive new teachers to come into the area. And when you look at all of those sort of initiatives that we have going, you start to look at them and say, well, those all kind of flow into that overarching talent attraction, retention, and workforce development area. And so I think that's really going to be, a big concentration of the things that we're doing, to be helpful for the community as a whole.
So you mentioned panhandling, and that's a term, and that really is like an old-fashioned term. But one of the things that people might associate that with is homelessness, but they're two distinctly different situations the community has, including ours.
Yeah, and since I've been here, in the 6 months I've been here, it's sort of been brought up to me by different groups and different organizations, individuals, and I think it's one of those things. I know that there was an ordinance that was put up in front of the city council a couple of years ago and did not pass. I look at it and maybe come at it from a little bit different perspective than maybe people would think, which is I feel like we can do better, not just for our businesses, but for individuals and as a community by creating a coalition that looks at that issue and says, okay, how do we help people who are in that situation? Because oftentimes they're in some sort of a crisis, whether it's mental health or substance abuse or a homelessness issue or in between jobs. I mean, there's a struggle there oftentimes, and how do we build something as a coalition and a community that not only helps them, but also looks at businesses and says, okay, we also need to make sure that getting back to that safe and vibrant community. Feel like you can go downtown and eat outside and do things kind of unencumbered and feel safe about it. So, I think we've been polarized for a long time politically, and this is one of those opportunities, I think, to bring people together. And you have a lot of social service organizations out there doing good work, and as a chamber, we'd like to convene those groups and provide the opportunity for input and how we best move forward on that.
Well, I know it's a big conversation, but I think this is maybe an opportunity the community has in having you from another market that's similar in size with similar issues, Bay City. Did this situation, was it something the community faced in Bay City?
So it wasn't a significant issue in Bay City, but they did pass some laws and some ordinances. And what we saw was, if you had someone who was out asking for help, panhandling, whatever term you want to use, they sort of moved out from whether it was the downtown or the city limits and literally, in some cases across the street from the city limits into the township to then sort of go to that area. And so, what you saw was kind of that path of least resistance, and being able to, do that without any hassle. And so, I know they passed some of these ordinances in Grand Rapids, and, as it went through the process last summer, there were those that sort of said it was, an attempt to criminalize poverty or homelessness. And what we've seen, since it was passed in August, where they redefined the words accosting and loitering, in their ordinances, is there haven't been any tickets issued at all. But what they've seen is, they've sort of removed those situations away from ATMs, from, the downtown restaurants that have that outdoor dining. And then they had a unique partnership with Mel Trotter Industries where, if too many belongings were left in a city park, they would actually take those and store them for up to 30 days. And in conversations with sort of business leaders, owners over there, they're starting to see kind of this impact that it's having, and you can visually see what it's done to the community. So,
yeah, we were talking about how this is being addressed before the show in Grand Rapids, and to I think a different extent in Kalamazoo that's not been successful, but it's a statewide. People are seeing it. These kinds of issues.
Yeah, and in Grand Rapids, you look at that west side of the state, Kent and Ottawa counties, and it's the one sort of thriving, growing area as far as population. There's been a lot of talk about Michigan's shrinking or slowly growing population, and if there's one thing Grand Rapids and Kent County have done consistently, it's to be consistent about what their economic development strategy is, what their what they're working on over the last 30, 40, 50 years to sort of become what it is. And one of the interesting things as this went through the process was those model communities that they've looked at over the years to say, hey, these are some best practices that we should implement, is those communities are now dealing with this issue and haven't been successful. And you look at some of these communities, Portland, for example, or you hear about San Francisco sometimes in the news, and they've said, and when they went through the presentation on this, they said, this is an instance where we want to be different from those communities that generally we look to as that gold standard. And so they took that opportunity to recognize that they're a unique community, and it's not cookie cutter.
Interesting you mentioned economic development as a community goal in other markets. What about for the chamber? What involvement will you, or do you want to see the chamber have in economic development and the organizations of people already doing that?
Well, the big one is obviously the enterprise group. Keith Gillenwater just came on board a couple of weeks ago as their new president and CEO. I believe he came in from Indiana. I've had an opportunity to spend some time with him. I think you're going to see him next week on the show. He's fantastic. He's going to do great things in the community. And really, from a chamber perspective, what we want to do in our role in economic development is to do our best to make sure that we're providing the support to make sure Keith and the enterprise group are successful. We can do a lot of advocacy work. We can partner and help on a lot of these initiatives. But when it comes to the nuts and bolts of economic development, we want to make sure that we're staying in our lane and providing that support. I think that's an opportunity for that collaboration. But that's really going to be his wheelhouse. I foresee a lot of that workforce development work, with Enterprise Group, with Michigan Works, Jackson College, Spring Arbor, and others, and obviously certainly our K-12s here in Jackson County, and building a lot of collaborations and being able to work together on those things, because workforce is the number one thing that site selectors look at when they're looking to locate, to expand a business. It's, do you have the quality and the quantity of workforce that they need?
Yeah, and all the things that go along with that, housing and the support of the market.
Yep, that's right.
All right, well, I think it's an advantage to the community that you and Keith are both new, bringing in some outside perspective, but also fresh ideas on working as partners toward the same kinds of goals.
I learned a long time ago from somebody I respect a lot that it's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit. So,
well, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Hey, how do you like the Jackson winters?
It was really mild. I feel like I moved south. When I first mentioned Jackson and said moving south, my wife thought I meant Mississippi, and it might as well have been this year. Every time I turned around back up north, they were getting snow. So it's been great.
Here we are. Well, winter's not over yet, so I guess maybe I spoke too soon. Thanks for coming down. The president and CEO of the Jackson County Chamber of Commerce and Experience Jackson, Ryan Tarrant. We've